Am I the asshole if I tell my mom that my dad asked if I could be a surrogate for him and his new wife? My 26 female dad, 56 male, has been trying to have a child with his new wife, 40 female, for going on 2 years. They are attempting IVF, but aren't having any luck. They told me this in confidence and asked if I could keep the fact they are trying for a baby to myself, which I have done no problem. Recently, my dad called saying he had been planning to ask me something for a while. He asked if things with IVF don't work out, if I would be willing to be a possible surrogate with donor DNA. I was shocked and honestly disgusted by the idea. Background, my father and I don't have the best relationship. Parents are divorced, and he was an alcoholic until I went to college. We went 3 years, no contact, because of an argument. Only started speaking again 3 years ago. All of this makes the fact of what he asked me so much more shocking. When he asked, I gave an awkward chuckle and said, quote, I don't even know if I ever want to physically have a child myself. And if I do, I would probably use surrogacy myself if I could. It's gross. And I'd like to talk to my mom about this. Am I the asshole if I talk to her about this after they asked me to keep the fact they are trying for a child secret? It would give away that they are trying for a child, and she might yell at him, giving away the fact I told her. She wouldn't spread it to others, and I do feel like he crossed a line asking this. What do we think?
Am I wrong for pretending to be a sugar baby to humiliate someone? I, a 31 female, recently moved into my boyfriend's 42 male house. We've been together 5 years. I'm friendly with almost all of his friends except for his best friend's girlfriend who hates me. I'll call her Elle. Elle thinks I'm a gold digger. My boyfriend does make a lot more money than me, but I have a decent job, work hard, and I make okay money. Part of the reason she thinks this about me might be because we've got different backgrounds. He and most of his friends grew up wealthy and I grew up working class. She's forever making little digs at my background. I'm from a poor part of the country with a strong accent and trying to pass it off as banter. For the record, I banter with my boyfriend all the time about our backgrounds. She doesn't do this in front of my boyfriend, and I've never really brought it up with him except for in passing because I just find it funny. Since I moved in with him, she's made non-stop comments to me about how I must be so happy I've bagged him because I never have been able to live in a place like this otherwise. She sounds like she wants your man, if I'm being honest. She wants to be you. That's the problem. People who talk like that are jealous people. Like, why does she care? Because she wants to be you. When people care that much, that means they are jealous. A few weeks ago, she even told me she was expecting me to announce a pregnancy to lock him in. I can't have children, but she doesn't know that. When she said that, it got to the point that it was no longer funny to me, so instead of laughing it off like I normally do, I decided I'd just play along. The next time she made a comment, I just smiled and placed a hand on my stomach. She looked shocked but didn't say anything. A little later on, she commented on how stressful it must be to not have a full-time job. So I just said something like, well, I won't need to worry about that soon, and kind of smiled again. I'm not sure why I thought this was a good idea, but I was enjoying how angry it was making her, so I kept doing it. That's because it is a good idea. I love it. Last Friday, at a meal out with my boyfriend and a group of friends, things came to a heat. I wasn't drinking, and in the middle of the meal, she brought it up and said something like, it's weird to see a person from your region sober. I laughed it off, but then she kept asking why I wasn't drinking, even after I said I was on a diet. Eventually, she just blurted out, you must be happy you're expecting Miles, but I thought you didn't want kids. I pretended to be shocked and looked over at Miles and said, actually, I can't have children. Literally, everyone was silent. I got up and left, and Miles followed me. She was apparently mortified. At that moment, it felt great, but on reflection, I think I might have taken it too far. I've since heard that her boyfriend is sleeping at a different friend's house, and the rest of the group aren't talking to her. I'm feeling more and more like an asshole, and I'm wondering if I should come clean and tell everyone I deliberately misled her into thinking I was pregnant. My boyfriend knows this and thinks she had it coming. So, am I the asshole? Am I wrong for photoshopping my maid of honor's tattoos out of my wedding photos? So I, 32 female, got married 2 months ago to my husband, 35 male. We had a beautiful wedding, and my childhood BFF, Jessica, 31 female, was my maid of honor. I had a themed wedding. My husband and I are both historians, and we met because we were researching the same time period for a thesis, namely the 1800s in Great Britain, or popularly known as the Regency era. The fact that we both researched the same time period was practically the reason why we started dating, so we instantly loved the idea of a themed wedding set in the Regency era, as it was sentimental to us and a beautiful way to honor our beginnings. For my wedding, I personally paid for my wedding party's dresses, hair, and makeup. makeup. Now, Jessica has tattoos on her hands, legs, torso, and neck. I brought up her tattoos and asked her what she would prefer to do with them to stay on theme. She said she wishes to do nothing, and while she understands the theme is important to my husband and I, she was not going to cover herself up in any way as she didn't want to compromise herself. I was a little miffed, but I accepted this, since it's a fair boundary, and so I didn't push it. Plus, gloves were an important part of the bridesmaid's attire, meaning most of her tattoos will be covered by the gloves itself, and it was really just the neck tattoos I was worried about. But the bridesmaid dresses had conservative necklines, so it wouldn't be very conspicuous, and so I thought I could just get over this and not worry. However, on the day of the wedding, Jessica's gloves were small instead of the big ones I expected the bridesmaids to wear, and her dress's neckline did nothing to cover her tattoos as she had altered it last minute. I did not expect this and was kind of thrown off, but after a while, I stopped caring and was busy having the best day of my life. However, fast forward to a few weeks ago, I got back the first set of pictures from my wedding day, and the pics with Jessica and them were jarring to say the least because of her tattoos. It was honestly so out of place that I had asked my photographer to edit the pictures to give them a more historic portrait-like look. I wanted a particular picture of my husband and I, our families, maid of honor, and bridesmaids framed, but if anyone saw that picture, the first thing they would have noticed was Jessica's tattoos and not my husband and I. I really wanted this one particular picture to look like an actual portrait in 1810, so I went ahead and asked the photographer to digitally remove the tattoos. The post Photoshop pic came in the mail yesterday, and I showed it to Jessica. I knew she would have gotten annoyed with this, and I was ready to apologize sincerely, but also let her know that I won't be returning the picture. Jessica was very, very mad when she saw the pic and told me that this was a narcissistic and disrespectful thing to do and stormed out of my house. She was more mad than I expected her to be, so now I'm not sure if I was truly way out of line or just a little bit selfish. So, am I the asshole? Am I wrong for paying for another bride's wedding dress, but not my daughter's? My husband and I worked hard and managed to become financially secure adults after both of us grew up in poverty. We raised our children to work hard. We did not spoil them or provide them with a lavish life. As teens, they all had part-time jobs, but we did purchase them their own used cars, which they were required to maintain. We also paid for college, and we paid for our oldest 2 kids' weddings. However, we were merely the ones paying, and we did not provide any input or suggestions unless asked. The only thing we didn't pay for their weddings was our son's tuxedo and our oldest daughter's wedding dress. Our youngest daughter, Michaela, is engaged, and we are paying for her wedding with the exception of her dress. She must buy her own wedding dress. Michaela invited her dad and I to watch her try on dresses with the bridal party. She found a beautiful dress in her budget, and we were so honored to have been allowed to take part in her finding the dress and seeing herself as a bride. Hey, I really like these parents. They sound really dope. While there, I complimented another bride on a dress she was wearing, and her mother and I struck up a conversation where I learned that the family was low income and both the bride and groom and the bride's parents had taken out loans to have a beautiful wedding. I 100% disagree with people who have to take out loans to have weddings. Don't have the wedding. Have a party in your house. Go hurrah, buy a cheap white dress from like Ross or something, but you should never take out loans. That's how the system destroys us, because society has brainwashed us into thinking that you have to have this lavish lifestyle wedding. Why would you put yourself into debt over one night? Like, why? The bride is also plus sized, and I learned that she had been to 6 different stores and there had only been a few options for her size, and all of them had just been awful. The bride ended up falling in love with the last dress she tried on, but was heartbroken to learn that the consultant had misread the price tag and the dress was actually $1,000 over budget. And with alterations to make it her size, it was another $1,400. The bride took the dress off and said she'd try to find something online. I grew up poor and I was also a chubby kid. I was bullied and I was very unhappy. I always wanted more, and in this bride I saw myself, and I didn't want her to have to settle for a dress that fit versus a dress that she loved. So while my daughter was changing, I asked the other bride if I could pay the difference on her dress. It was very emotional. We all held each other and cried. She accepted. See, that's such a nice gesture though. Like, that is really sweet. I very happily paid the difference on her dress. Her mother, herself, and I are now friends on Facebook, and my husband and I have been invited to the wedding, which we will gladly attend. I felt very honored to have been allowed to help this girl in a very small way, but being invited to her wedding was so unexpected and amazing. When Michaela found out about this, she threw a fit and said that I obviously had shown how I truly feel about her wedding and herself, and if I cared at all, I'd have paid for her dress too. She's now not speaking to me or her father, who didn't even have a hand in this, which is unfair. She has now uninvited us from the wedding. We're so hurt and confused. Was I an asshole?
Am I the asshole for asking my boyfriend to stop emulating Winnie the Pooh? So this conflict came up recently because I, 24 female, moved in with my boyfriend, 25 male. The issue is that he has started walking around the apartment and spending most of his days completely bottomless, dick out with just his shirt on. He calls this, quote, Winnie the Poohing. He told me he started it during work from home because he thought it was funny to be on Zoom and just not have pants on. I'll be honest, it makes me a little uncomfortable for him to just constantly have his pants out in front of me, so I've requested he just wear boxers at least. He thinks I'm trying to be too controlling and that I should appreciate his body. However, it just feels kind of unsanitary and weirdly dangerous. He was cooking with oil and a drop of oil spat out of the pan and landed on his penis. So, am I the asshole for not wanting to constantly look at my boyfriend's penis?